Got a global following, and again, I'm just honored to be able to share a few of the things that I'm passionate about with them.
Well, you know what? Thanks so much. I appreciate your kind words. And this is all about giving coaches the tools so that way maybe if they do a little bit more stretching and do things to help kids prevent injuries, and we can talk about things that you see as trouble areas as you work with players at all different levels. I know a big thing for me as guys get older, I always see guys that, they don't stretch enough and they're not taking care of their bodies, and their body is truly the asset which is going to, make them that money at the professional level. But I always tell players, Alan, and I'm just going to call you Coach because of the utmost respect I have for you. Coach, the things that I tell players are taking care of the little details. Like when I see guys that aren't taking enough time to stretch the hamstrings, that's why we're seeing more blown out knees, more meniscus problems, more ACL tears. And something that simple that I know that's more of your expertise, I'm going to let you speak on that. But as you see kids as they're going through their high school development, trying to make the step to go to the next level, because I believe they have to dominate their level where they're at to get to the next level. What are some problem areas that you see with young kids that they need to take care of? Is it their core? Is it their legs? Is it their upper body? I mean, please speak on that for us for a second.
Sure, absolutely. And it's a little bit of everything. And to be quite honest, one of my main objectives is to really get this to trickle down to the youth player,
Yes.
And that kids, even as young as 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, need to start doing these things, because if they're fortunate enough to get to your level and play professionally, I don't want to say it's too late at that point, but if you're talking about somebody that's in their early 20s and they've really done nothing up until that point to take care of their body, it's going to take a lot more than a couple of hamstring stretches to keep them healthy at that point. The goal is to start building this foundation when players are really young. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of people think, because most people think that, a 9 or 10-year-old shouldn't be doing any quote-unquote strength and conditioning. And I think they're kind of missing the big picture. Even though my title is strength and conditioning coach, even that title is probably a little bit outdated, because it really only focuses on two aspects of the things that I'm trying to improve with our players, obviously strength and conditioning. But there's so much more into improving basketball athleticism. Balance. We want to work on flexibility and mobility. We want to work on reaction. We want to work on the ability to decelerate and change direction. We want to work on footwork. There's so many different components, and a large majority of those characteristics can and should be worked on with kids as young as 9, 10, 11 years old. And if they can start building the proper foundation, then by the time they get, if they're fortunate enough to play in high school and they're fortunate enough to play in college, and then if they're really fortunate enough to play at your level professionally, then they've built themselves a very nice foundation, and their bodies will be more durable. The crazy part is it goes back and forth. When players are really young, their bodies are so durable. They can take a beating. They can play 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it really doesn't have an adverse effect on them until they start getting a little bit older. And then you see all the miles on their car really have started to accumulate, and that's where some of the issues start. So, for me, it's all about educating younger players and coaches that work with younger players so that by the time they get to your level, it's second nature. They're not seeing this stuff for the first time as a 22-year-old professional. This is stuff they've been doing for close to a decade at that point, and that's really my number one objective. And I know to really answer your question, every area you just mentioned is actually a problem area with high school age kids. They're usually they lack significant strength in the upper body, the lower body, and the core. They lack the ability to really decelerate and stabilize their bodies safely when they're landing, when they're planting, when they're cutting. And all of this stuff ends up taking a toll lots of times on the knees, on the ankles, on the low back. So those tend to be problem areas. But really the most important thing is getting people to widen the scope of what basketball athleticism is. And most players today, especially in the United States, think athleticism is simply how fast you run and how high you jump. because that's what's cool, that's what's sexy, that's what we all watch on Sports Center every morning.
Right.
And I know players want to run faster and jump higher, and I can appreciate that. But I also want to teach them to embrace the other areas that I mentioned, like balance, like reaction, like hand-eye coordination, because those areas of athleticism play a profound impact on your ability to actually play this game. And the last thing I'll leave you with on this topic is everything that I do with players is to give them the potential to perform their skills at a much higher level. I'm humble enough to know I love what I do for a living. I love the performance enhancement side, but I'm humble enough to know that it's only a very small piece of the puzzle.
Right.
At the end of the day, if you can't shoot, pass, rebound, defend, or handle the ball, you're not a very good basketball player. You might be very fit, you might run very fast, but if you don't have the skills of the game, or you don't know how to play the game, you have a low basketball IQ, then there's a major ceiling on how good you can become. So, I look at building players from the ground up. They start with, I call it my stuff. Obviously, it's not my stuff, but strength and conditioning type stuff, movement-based stuff. And then the next level is they need to do the skill work. They need to learn how to handle the ball and pass the ball and shoot the ball and defend and rebound. And then they need to get a basketball IQ. They have to learn how and when to use all those different tools that they've now put in their toolbox. And if you can combine those three areas with some heart, with some grit, with some passion, with having a motor, then you have the potential of being the best player that you're capable of becoming, which is what I want all players to aim for. And for some of them, that's good enough to play on the professional level. There'll be some that, as not everyone can play professionally. Not everyone can play in college. I mean, basketball is a giant game of musical chairs, and unfortunately, not everyone gets to have one of those chairs. But the only way to even give yourself a chance is to really try and hit those four different areas of body, skill, brain, and heart.
Oh, you know what? I can't echo enough the things that you're sharing with the viewers right now.